Hi, everyone. I am here with Jen Hazlett, who was a player from 2010 till she graduated in 2014. She started all 4 years and she was captain her first year. So I'm so happy to be with you today, Jen.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So let's start off by talking about how you got recruited and what drew you to West Point and what influenced your decision to actually go there and what that early experience was like. Did your expectations match up with what it was really like?
Um, let's see. In high school, I started getting pretty serious about basketball around my junior year. I realized I was decent enough to maybe go to college and get it paid for, so I started focusing. I traveled a lot with my AAU team, and obviously, there's like scouts who go to your tournaments and things like that. And so, West Point coach showed up to my tournament in Las Vegas. And then I got like some stuff in the mail, and then she gave me a call, and I was like, "What is West Point?" I grew up in Utah. I've never heard of West Point before. I've heard of like Air Force Academy, and that was it. But I started looking into West Point more. They started recruiting me heavily, and then also Air Force Academy started recruiting me, and then Navy started recruiting me. So all three were pretty heavily recruiting me. I got asked on official visits for all three. I went to Navy first, and not to speak bad on Navy, but I did not enjoy that visit. I felt like it was, there's some entitlement and things like that, and I just didn't feel like that was my place. Um, so the next weekend, I had a visit scheduled with West Point, and I went on that visit, and I just felt like this place is going to be tough. It's going to challenge me, and I love a challenge. But I'm also going to be leading soldiers if I choose this route. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I went home after that visit, and I told my parents, I'm pretty sure this is where I want to go. I don't even want to go to Air Force Academy. So I canceled my visit to Air Force Academy. The Navy coach actually came out to my house the Monday after my West Point visit. So she did a home visit, and pretty much right after she flew back, I had committed to West Point. So I was really happy with that decision. Obviously, I thought it worked out really well. It was expectation wise. I don't think I really understood what I was getting into fully, and I don't think most people do unless you knew someone who went to West Point before you or whatever. So I was just going into it with a very open mind and just kind of like the military mindset. My dad was in the military. My grandpa, I have uncles in the military. So they were kind of, trying to tell me a little bit about it before going, but you never know the full scope till you actually do it yourself. So I was not expecting like the 5 a.m., basic training stuff right off the bat, but that's what it was. And so I think it was better that way to not know what to expect when going through it. I think it helped me just take it day by day and just go with it, go with the flow. But yeah, that was my expectation for arrival, obviously, and then throughout that it shifted. So, um, does that answer your question? Is that
Yeah. And how did
okay?
basketball fit into that? So, like, what was your expectation about being a cadet athlete? And what were those, early years like? You were a first year starter, which was pretty unusual. I know a lot of people that came in your cohort. Uh, I think we had a JV at that time, right? I vaguely
Yeah,
recall
we
we
might
had
have.
a JV team. Um, but I don't think you were on it. I think you made the 15-person roster pretty early on.
Mm-hmm. And that your memory is honestly probably better than mine. Everything was kind of a blur that first year. Okay, so my best friend, she's still my best friend to this day, Jackie. She was recruited as well and made the team, whatever. And she decided to leave first semester of plebe year. And so for me, when I was already kind of struggling with like managing my time, I wasn't doing well, super well in basketball. You know, I'm coming from Utah where I was like state champion and, 5A MVP in the state. And, I just had very high expectations for myself. I did not come into West Point like playing at the level that I should have been playing at. It was a huge adjustment for me for like the workouts, the lifting, the practices, the individuals, like just all of the strength and conditioning. Like it's a huge transition, and I was not prepared for that. And then obviously Jackie left, my best friend, and she was pretty much getting me through the hard times. So I went through a phase there where I really almost left. And then Aaron Anthony and Megan Doucette and Kim Martin, they came to my room and pretty much talked me out of it. And I still remember that to this day because that's the only reason I stayed. And I'm glad I did, thanks to them. But I was pretty much ready to leave. And looking back, I would have regretted that so much. Because that's just a blip in the story of your life, like things aren't really that tough. So yeah, I'm glad I stuck it out. And being a cadet athlete at West Point, it is tough. And I think a lot of the cadets who are not on a core squad or a Division I team, they realize that when like they're the roommate of a Division I athlete at West Point, and they're like, "Whoa, yeah, your guys' schedule is pretty tough." So that was pretty eye-opening. Just, in the morning we'd have strength and conditioning, then you still have to be at the breakfast formation, go to all your classes, then you're up at the gym from 2:30 or 3 o'clock till about after 7 every night. And then you go back to your room, start your homework. And I mean, everyone who's played at West Point knows what I'm talking about. It's tough to figure out how to prioritize everything that's going on and expected of you academically, militarily, like physically. Everything is just so, you got to figure it out. And so I appreciated that because in life now, I'm like, nothing's ever really that difficult, right? Like, I have way more free time in my professional life, my adult life, even though I'm a mom, I still feel like West Point was one of the toughest, 4 years of my life, just trying to prioritize everything and manage my time and all the expectations that come with it as well. Not just from myself, but from everyone else too.
So would you say the time management and the perseverance were some of the most important things you took away from that? And were there other big growth opportunities that when you reflect back on it, you're shocked at how far you came?
Yeah. Yeah, I think there were some moments for sure, not just in basketball, but like at West Point in general, where you need to prove it to yourself that like you've got what it takes and you should be there. And I think I went through a few of those, especially as a teammate and as a leader. I felt like I came in, I felt like I was pretty selfish. I was only worried about myself because I felt like I wasn't going to make it if I was not focusing on myself. And then that made me like not a great teammate. So eventually as I got older and I was able to like manage everything on my plate better, I became a better teammate because I was focusing more on others and not just myself, and just wanting to win as a team, things like that. So as time went on, and when you go through the summers at West Point and the things are really hard, once you get through them, you're like, I can do that. I can do pretty much anything. So it does give you a lot of confidence and self-esteem when you do get through those tough trainings or you know, tough workouts, whatever it is. And then obviously like the camaraderie aspect to all of that. Oh, sorry, I lost you. Can you see
You're
me
good.
still?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I lost you. I was just going to talk a little bit about like the camaraderie part of it. And it's not just like with the team, it's with your company or those that you did summer training with. I thought that was just really cool because you're like doing so much for other people. It makes you realize, I mean, you could do so much more than just for yourself. And also learning to allow others to help you. I'd say I'm not a big person who asks for help. And so throughout that time, I guess, I learned to ask for help, especially with like academics. That wasn't my strong suit. Just putting in more time in the gym, and everyone would always say yes. And I was just always too afraid to ask. So I guess my mind changed a little bit as well with that. So.
Well, that's an important lesson to learn, the asking for help thing. You
Yeah.
mentioned winning as a team, and probably during your tenure was sort of the buildup of
Yeah.
a lot of success for Army women's basketball. So, can you talk about that a little bit and maybe what some of your favorite memories were from any of your time?
Yeah. Let's see. I do think that we had maybe 7 people in my class when I first started. And then obviously as time goes on, people's priorities change or they just realize they didn't want to do it anymore, and that's okay. Like, no big deal. So I ended up being the only senior in my class my first year. But during that build up, obviously I leaned very heavily on the firsties when I was a plebe and all the upperclassmen, really. Like, and I know most Army women's basketball fans or players have heard of Erin Anthony, obviously. Erin Williams now, but Erin Anthony. And I just relied very heavily on her. She was actually my host for my official visit. And then when I showed up for real, like, I just leaned very heavily on her. Obviously, she was good at literally everything. And I was
My
not.
nickname for her is Mary Poppins because she's practically perfect in every way.
I know, and she still is. She's still crushing it. But no surprise there. But just kind of looking at them, and I'm trying to like picture myself as a firstie 3 years from that time or whatever. I'm like, how do I want to be? Who do I want to be as a leader? Who do I want to be as a teammate? And I just kind of took a little bit from each of them and tried to build on that. But it was also like I have to figure out myself as well. Like, I'm not ever going to be that smart where things academically are going to be easy for me. It's like, where are my strengths? Where are my weaknesses? And trying to like figure that out very early on, I think was helpful. But the build up to it, I think we had great, like, I had great teammates. And so throughout those 4 years, we just kept building more and more and more. Like, what do we want? What are we building towards? Like, we want to win a championship. How are we going to do that? And I feel like we got more and more buy-in as the years went on, where everyone's like main priority was the team and was winning the championship. And so that obviously helps a lot when you've got however many other women on your team that want the exact same thing that you do. That changes things a lot. So I think we had great leadership all 4 years, and just the buy-in obviously was huge. So, and then obviously talent. You get like Kelsey Minatos, you get the Kelsey Minatos and Amy Ortners and, all those great players that you gotta have a good player at every position on the team, and everyone's got to do their job. And I think we got to that point, fortunately, my senior year, and that's why we won the conference championship and then went to the NCAA tournament. So that's everyone's goal really in college, is to win your conference and play in the NCAA tournament. So I'm very fortunate that I did make it to that point, but I wouldn't have without all my amazing teammates leading up to that moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, that first chance to cut down the nets is always pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. It's awesome.
That was one of my favorite memories too. Um, let's talk a little bit about life after the academy. And so, can you share what you did in the Army and what that experience was like, and how being a cadet athlete or being an Army women's basketball player contributed to your time in the Army?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. Following the Army, I stayed at West Point to be a grad assistant for the women's prep school team. So I just stayed, I don't know, 7 or 8 months and just helped coach the prep school team. And those were some of my favorite memories. Honestly, they're amazing. Great girls. Had a blast. And then I went to Fort Lee, Virginia for my Bullock for my training. That was about 4 months. And then I got assigned, my first duty station was Fort Stewart, Georgia, with 3rd Infantry Division. I was in a combat sustainment support battalion in the sustainment brigade there. So I was a platoon leader. I had about 50 soldiers in like a quartermaster company. And then I became an executive officer for that same company. And then I basically became the company commander just because some things happened. And so, as company commander of that same company, and it was about 202 soldiers in that company. And then I was selected to be a general's aide to the deputy commanding general support, General Hamilton, still one of my favorites.
Me too.
And yeah. And then after that, I became a logistics operations officer in 3rd ID G4, division logistics, basically. And then I was medically discharged. I had a botched Achilles surgery. So, yeah, it pretty much wasn't the same. So I got out. Yeah, it was a little after 5 years I got out.
And somewhere in there, you played all Army basketball,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
What was that? What was that like?
That was a blast because actually my best friend Jackie, even though she left West Point, she still went on to become an officer. She went through the ROTC route and she played all Army basketball. And so they asked me to come play for like a month or whatever. So I did. So Jackie and I got to play all Army basketball for about a month together. And it was just like the greatest time ever. We were pretty good. And it was fun to meet everyone. Like it was all different ranks and all different MOSs and people from all over, the Army who come together at Fort Benning for a month. And we just go around and play like different colleges and things like that. So that was a blast. And I think it was a much needed like break from the op tempo of 3rd ID, that 1 month just to like play basketball, the game that I love, and then go right back to my job. So I was super, super fortunate, but that was the only time I was able to play. Yeah.
So, in your life after the Army, I know you have had some challenges. What has the team meant to you in supporting you through some of those hard times?
Yes. Yeah, it has meant everything to me because it's funny because I still actually call quite a few girls weekly. Kim Martin. I just talked to Bree Johnson the other night, and then Jean Parker. She brought her daughter over to play with my daughters like a couple months ago. Just small things like that. So, yeah, I've been through some very, very difficult things, and became a single mom pretty much overnight to my two daughters. About 5 years ago now. It was almost 5 years ago. And pretty much needed to shift my entire life overnight as well. So for me, that just meant like I am going to prioritize my children. and I'm going to work hard. I'm never going to let my children see me fail, especially when like they're relying on me. And I felt like, and I know it sounds a little bit cheesy or a little cliche, but like West Point did prepare me, and the Army prepared me for. Sorry, this keeps dipping out on me. Prepared me actually to go through those hard times in my personal life, just because I felt like I knew how to keep one foot in front of the other, and I could call like you, Colonel Ryan. I remember calling you when I was a platoon leader, being like, "Please help me."
Mhm.
And then when the thing happened with my daughter, I remember calling you as well, and you came out and visited, and we just had a great time. So, yeah, just being able to call these girls on, yeah, through like hardest times in my life was super beneficial because I didn't feel like I was alone during all of that. I felt like they all had my back. And, you know, Aaron Anthony was randomly sending me things, and Laura Baranek was checking up. I mean, just every single person that I played with pretty much reached out at one point and just asked what they could do for me. And I think that's the best part about Army women's basketball is that we are like ride or dies forever. You could call any person that you've ever played with, and they will drop what they're doing to come and support you and help you if you need it. So, yeah, that's just the greatest thing, honestly. I'm super grateful for those relationships, and it's not just with the teammates; it's with like everyone who supported the team. You know, our ORs. You know, you, Colonel Ryan, Dr. Yavorik, and the coaches, you know, even former coaches that aren't there anymore. I still talk to Jada, you know, and just amazing people. And I think that's what West Point does is it just builds like amazing relationships. So I'm very grateful. Yeah.
All right. So on that note, the last thing I want to ask you is if you were advising your high school junior self or maybe a young woman right now that doesn't really know that much about West Point, but is a great player and is interested, like what advice might you give her?
Um, Obviously, okay, because I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have at least gone to Air Force for my visit just to see what it was all about so that I don't have to look back and be like, oh, I regret not going because I actually don't know what they had to offer, right?
Mhm.
Not saying I regret my decision to go to West Point. It's just I wish I had all the information before I made my decision. So I would just say look at all of your options very thoroughly and decide what it is you want for your future. For me, that was like, do I want West Point? Because I want to be challenged and because I want to lead soldiers and because it's going to set me up for pretty much the rest of my life. Like those were my big things is I was a big planner. So I always thought well into the future. I'm like West Point degree and you know all the things that I did there, is that going to help me in my future if the Army is not in my future? And so the answer was obviously yes, and it has panned out that way, and it's been incredibly rewarding. And I think I have a really amazing life, and a lot of it is due to West Point and the degree and the network and all that comes with it. So that's why I chose West Point. But definitely look at all of your options. Don't think about which school is going to be the most fun because 20 years from now, you're not going to be worried about that. You're going to be worried about your livelihood and how you provide for your family and things like that. So that's my advice.
Well, it's always amazing to hear from you and hear what you've been up to and reflect back on some really great times in both our lives. So I want to thank you for taking the time to share those with all our friends of Army women's basketball. Thank you so much,
Of
Jen.
course. Yeah. Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it.